what's up, everyone? That was a very lame applause, honestly. Let's go. Okay, let's go. All right. I think this panel is amazing, by the way. I'm mega honored, really, to have the pleasure to moderate it, because I think the topics we can cover with this amazing panel is massive, okay? So I want to do a quick introduction. We have around 35 minutes, so let's go. So as we all know, blockchain has promises to solve some problems, and I want to make sure to go through all of you and figure out what kind of problems those are, how government will be involved, how regulations or legislation will be involved, and how businesses can benefit from the blockchain. Because we always talk about, blockchain is so cool and everything, but let's go into the meat and potatoes and talk about actual examples. And I think all of us are here, well, in general, to solve some kind of problems for some kind of humans, right? Usually we want to solve some problems, right? So the question is, does the blockchain really solve problems? Which problems does it solve? And which problems does it generate, right? Because it's not just easy sailing, right? It also has some challenges, okay? So we cannot just say, okay, let's use blockchain for everything and let's go, we're going to be fine. It's more nuanced than that, and that's what I want to go into right now. Okay, so I want to start with NENA. Quite happy to have you here. Yeah. And I want to ask you, can blockchain technology help us solve real-life problems, like bring more equality, inclusion, and help us with sustainability goals? Or is this just overhyped technology and wishful thinking?
Okay, thank you for the question. Actually, we were asking ourselves this from 2018 on, when we started to create that strategic and policy approach in Slovenia, but also on the level of the European Union. And what I think is that the technology as such is not the case that should be addressed as something that is problematic, okay? Maybe we can explain it from the positive point of view, as we know that it has a great social value proposition. It has the characteristics that can bring efficiency, that can bring more productivity, that can help the companies, but also the states. So what we have here is the case how to explain to the governments what the blockchain technology is and what are the benefits. For example, we can explain this through the use cases, but sometimes we need to have the real cases to explain how it really works, and this is a little bit challenge, because some cases really work and some do not. For example, we have on the European level at least 3 use cases that we are developing for the whole Europe that can be interoperable. This is self-sovereign identity, this is diplomas or certificates that can be visible and accessible also on the whole European level. Traceability use case. This is the most plastic use case that can be explained to the users, how you can trace the data, how you can trace the documents, even the materials, products. And this is how we can explain technology for the governments or for the institutions to use them broadly. For sustainability and equity that you asked, definitely, because when we start to use the technology in certain levels, we can include, because we have peer-to-peer communication, no intermediaries, accessible protocols that are open. On the level of state is closed, definitely is permissioned, but in any case, this accessibility makes an inclusiveness. So if it is inclusiveness, it makes the positive impact, and also includes the communities, the people that are within that. And definitely it contributes to sustainability. We will not talk about Bitcoin probably because it's energy not efficient very much, but the positive effects from blockchain technology definitely lead to sustainable solutions.
Right. I see you're very, very forward-thinking. I want to go further to Elodie and talk about, because you're running Hub 71 and you have a lot of contact with blockchain companies. And I want to understand what kind of use cases are they implementing with blockchain technology and how businesses can in general benefit from this technology. If you have some examples of use cases, that would be amazing.
Sure. So in fact, what we do when we wanted to launch the DA Hub Plus was really to look at the market, the current market in the UAE, and see who would be our champion, you know, to be able to test these technologies and to adopt the technologies. Of course, in a safe way. That's why we started our collaboration with the regulator ADGM. So, for example, what we did is that we wanted to have a national bank with us. That's why we partner with FAB. And as you were seeing, the point is about the adoption, you know, and how we can test these technologies and see how we can do it again in a safe way. I think one of the biggest assets, you know, because a lot of people, when we refer to Web3 or to blockchain, as you were saying, you know, are referring to tokens and crypto and the bitcoins of this space. What we wanted to do in Hub 71 is really leverage our assets, which are the industrial assets on one side by Mubadala, the sovereign wealth fund, and on the other side by EDQ, the other sovereign fund, and see how we can move, you know, some of their supply chain and industrial processes on the blockchain. So, for example, we had an interesting discussion to see, you know, how we could potentially leverage our trading platform for spare parts in aerospace and putting part of the ownership on the blockchain. Very interesting. If you do MRO in such, you know, a regulated and safe industry, you need to be able to be sure that everything is stable, you know, and you know where it's coming from and who has been able to touch the parts. Another thing we'll be working on, and we are very excited about, it's a new approach with WIPO, which is the UN agency for IP. And we wanted to see how we can tokenize, you know, the fundraising of some patents to turn this patent into commercial business. So this is not only about blockchain, but that, as you were saying, you know, gives you and allows you to be able to access to a much broader crowd than just, you know, in the very old-fashioned and conservative model.
Those are amazing use cases. I mean, you can facilitate trade where you can standardize actually trade because you can now trade these NFTs, or at least you can pay for them easily across borders everywhere. You can see where the part came from, where it was used, how long it was in use, and so on, because it's part of a bigger airplane. So it's crazy opportunities that you open up, right?
You know, I always do the parallel with AI. I was born in the 80s. At that time, you know, everyone was talking about AI, and we went for this like very long winter. Now with the new launch, of course, we saw what is the opportunity, you know, and how AI will impact, collaborative AI will impact our society. I have the same feeling with blockchain, meaning like it's only by trying it that we'll be able to push, you know, and fast-track the adoption of these technologies, and we know that this is a good technology and it's a safe one. Of course, it needs a lot of evolution, you know, and it will come with time, that's fine. Yeah. But yeah, definitely is what we want to play a pivotal role as Hub 71 and Abu Dhabi.
Very nice, very nice. All right, I want to move on to, actually I want to move on to Robert and ask you, you have heard of some use cases, right? And, well, I'm excited, okay? But is the regulator also excited? What does the regulator think about this? Can you explain to us, okay, what you know about how Europe is approaching this? Is it standing in the way, or is it actually trying to help these use cases exist? And what can we look out for in the future?
We'll talk later.
Yeah, happy to elaborate on this. I think the interesting bit about Europe is that there is a very big awareness of what Europe did wrong with the Web 2, right? So everybody agrees in Europe that we didn't make the most of what the opportunity was back in the days, and they don't want to repeat this mistake again. I think that's the consensus in the first point. that doesn't mean that everything gets a sign-off now because it's like Web3 based or Web3-like or Web3 technology or whatever. That means that there's a more open approach to it than you would probably would have expected to be than based on the experience you had with the Web 2, right? That means, for example, when you look at the crypto assets framework that's just been adopted, MiCA, some of you might have heard of that. It's basically the first major jurisdictional crypto assets framework. It covers 500 million people. It allows for passporting across Europe. It has rules for tokens, crypto assets, CASPs, stable coins, and it's quite comprehensive. It's like 300 plus pages, so it's a very easy to digest paper, as you can imagine. So you see that there's a willingness to engage on this very positively, but you can also see that there are some endpoints to that, right? So the way we approached MiCA, for example, was from a very centralized perspective. So everything that's in MiCA and regulated by MiCA is approached from this old school TradFi centralized perspective, right? So DeFi is excluded, NFT is excluded, Metaverse doesn't exist in this, self-hosted wallets are excluded. And the same is happening in the AML world, right? Where we have basically a parallel development, where you have the same approach, everything centralized, running through a CASP, is intermediated, is fully regulated, there's FATF standards which are agreed on a global level, and they're implemented and often in a positive way, but that's where we stand right now, right? So none of the current regulation touches on anything that I would consider like decentralized or Web3 native, right? So we're at the stage now where we don't know what will come. The good thing is there's a lot of patience at the European level to look at it, see how it develops, but there's obviously political pressure in case of catastrophes, let's say, like Luna or FTX. Obviously, that's not DeFi. But the sentiment, and that brings me to the probably most important point, is that if we don't understand it, let's regulate it, let's ban it, let's be negative about it, right? And we only can tackle that if we help them to understand and educate. And that's the major task that is currently at hand for the whole industry, to take time, educate and engage with policymakers, not because they're all bad people or they want to just ban everything, it's because they don't know. They want to do the right thing, but they need to understand it to basically come up with a solution that works in the context we're operating in, right? Because there's demands on consumer protection, investor protection, et cetera, financial stability. And just to shorten this up, I think the sentiment is positive, but if we just let it go, and there's bad things happening. I mean, you're seeing now in the banking space where some banks collapsed. There's the reopening of some files on the debate on the topic, and that might happen as well in the crypto space or in the blockchain space if we don't keep educating, engaging, and helping them to understand that it's a process, it's a maturing industry, and bad things will happen, but we have to learn from them. And then we can take the right conclusions, and if we take the right conclusions, we'll come to a positive end for everybody involved. And I think that's what's there. There's this mindset, but it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, but it's already good to hear from you that that Europe is positively nuanced, because I was a bit afraid that we're gonna ban it again. So we might this time truly be on the forefront. Okay, not quite on the forefront. I think crypto oasis is a bit further. But anyway, Dubai. Anyway, very interesting. And I wanna move on to Max and then to you. So Max, you're from Lisk. You build actually a blockchain, right? And I want to ask you, why Web3? Why do you build your own blockchain? And how does all of this affect you and your future plans?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Quick introduction, because I was kind of like a last-minute addition to this panel. My name is Max KORDEK. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lisk. Back in 2016, we raised 14,000 Bitcoin, and we are building a layer 1 for JavaScript developers. I myself, I'm since 10 years in crypto, so I have a rather crypto-native perspective on things. And if, Michael, you asked me why Web3, then, well, I would say let's go back to the basics then first. The World Wide Web created the internet and allowed us to read unlimited resources online. And with the Web 2.0, then it was possible to write something to the internet, which created companies like Facebook, Snapchat, or YouTube. And in my opinion, these companies created silos or communities where users were able to create profiles on. And, well, these companies, due to that, became something like a middleman, or let's call them a custodian for your user profiles, for your user data. And what did they do? Of course, they were selling those to third-party companies so that they can target their advertisements better. Now, with Web 3, it introduces the concept of ownership to the internet, which allows you to truly own things online in a self-custodial way. So you could imagine with that the internet kind of becomes something like a global nation where every user is its citizen, and what do citizens need? They need something like a passport. And in the internet then, that would be their digital identity, which they can create with a crypto wallet, which enables them to hold digital goods, like digital assets, cryptocurrencies, tokens, or digital collectibles like NFTs. And, well, they hold it themselves, so it's self-custodial. So these custodians of Web 2.0, Facebook and co., they're not able to sell the user's data anymore because you are in control of your own data. So I think that's kind of like the background information. And then why is this important? Why Web 3? I think owning something means you're in control. And control means power. And Web 3, therefore, for me, gives power back to the people, because every person on this planet can now own things online, or let's call it on-chain. And that's really, truly remarkable, especially as the world moves more and more towards becoming digital. But this is not only in the digital world, it's also in the real, in the physical world, where things are just working on the internet and which you can finally now own yourself. For example, we see it with the recent bank failures, where banks are your custodians. So again, they're your middleman, which are in control. But what happens if there are problems? Well, you don't get your money. And, well, with Web 3 and these digital identities, which allow you to own digital goods, there are a number of use cases coming up. We call them blockchain applications, D-apps, Web3 applications, which basically make use of that principle that you can own something online or on-chain. Like, for example, a decentralized exchange where you can exchange different tokens with each others, which is, again, then something like a Web3-fication of what existed before, the stock markets. And I think it's coming more and more and more that these use cases of before are being brought on-chain. So I think that's really a big shift for the internet, for the first true global nation of which we are all citizens of. And I think it will bring, therefore, many, many advantages.
I mean, yeah, you're mentioning all of these capabilities of the blockchain, of having ownership, like true ownership on-chain of money and of assets. Money is, by the way, tokens and ERC20, if you will, and tokens are, assets are NFTs, right? So those are the two things. So, but that also brings a lot of responsibility. You know, this balance between power and responsibility. Yeah, if we keep that in mind. So yeah, cool, you have way more power now as a user, you own your stuff, but you also have responsibilities that you didn't have before to keep it safe, to not lose your keys and all this stuff. So do you think we can make this easier for people? Do you think we can, yeah, they have to take the responsibility, but can we make it easier for them and less frightening, you know, to own these assets?
Yeah, this goes into like what I see, like it's one of the three biggest adoption blockers of Web3 right now. One is bad user experience, the other are still missing use cases, both which can be solved and which is getting better. Since 10 years ago, like this is a whole different industry now. It became so much better. And the third is, yeah, just technology in its own and technology fragmentation, because crypto gives like this financial incentive to do your own currency. Well, I have my own one. But yes, this is definitely something what comes with it, more responsibilities, more duties on the end user. But let's face it, better that, and we educate them, than giving big corporations or governments even more power. I think it's time to give this power back to the people.
Revolution, let's go.
Exactly.
No, but I agree. That's quite strong words, good words, I think, from you. So I'm on your side. But let's make it as easy as possible for the people out there
100%.
to use it. I want to go to Ramani now and talk about. Actually, let me say, I want to build a bridge to Ramani because you are building actually a solution for cross-chain communication. And before we go into that, let me quickly explain the context. So basically, there are multiple blockchains. People can have assets and coins on multiple blockchains. But then some projects or dApps they want to use are on this chain, and some other are on this other chain, and some are on multiple chains. And this information has to cross over from one to another. Now, that's a bit tricky because blockchains cannot go to the internet and just send each other messages for security reasons, by the way. So you have a solution for that. Why do we need that? Do we really need, because, let me say a bit more things because I got just started, yeah? Why do we need so many blockchains, first of all? Because your solution is because we have so many blockchains, but why do we need so many blockchains? And will the, let's say, government, let's say European Union, have its own blockchain for its citizens to store their money? Because money is important to governments, right? And will you basically bridge between, let's say, Ethereum, Polygon, Avalanche, Solana, and the governmental blockchain back and forth? You know, I mean, this is something where I'm not sure where it's going to go, and I would like your take, and then also Robert's take on that as well. Let's go.
But have you told them about the quiz?
Huh?
The quiz at the end of the panel, if they score full marks, they get the full BTC? Have you told them about it?
No, so let's make a bet, 1 million Bitcoin bet, similar. No,
yeah,
you
it's like the, I feel the post-lunch vibes. I used to be a lecturer long ago, and after lunch class was the most difficult because folks are physically there, but mentally not there, right? All right, quick show of hands, guys. How many of you think Bitcoin is going to be $1 million by June, as Balaji Srinivasan says?
Nobody?
All right, nobody. It's fine. At least now that we have your attention. Thank you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ram. I run Router Protocol, which, as my friend was explaining, builds cross-chain infrastructure, helping blockchains talk to each other, right? And let me tell you why that's important, right? Let's say you want to book an airline ticket from Dubai to, let's say, London. What do? You go to Expedia or whatever Priceline or whatever portal you use, and you say that, I want to go from Dubai to London, I want a business class seat or whatever, and I want the dates, and boom, that's it, right? Unfortunately, with blockchains, it's very, very different. To go from each blockchain, to just go from Ethereum to Polygon, you have to specify a lot of minutiae regarding gas fee on source chain, gas fee on destination chain, a lot of other technical details that are probably best left to a very technical audience, basically the devs that cook up these solutions, right? Imagine if when you had to book a flight from here to New York, for instance, you had to sort of specify what gate you want to transit at London or Frankfurt, what are the fees that you pay for that specific interchange, etc. That's the state of blockchain communications right now, right? And what you have is a lot of blockchains. Just like you have various cities, you have Ethereum, Solana, Polygon, BNB, everybody has an L1 chain, and they're not going to go away. All these guys are supremely well-funded, and they have their own ecosystems, their DEXs, their lending platforms, their NFT platforms, and their Twitter champions who are basically 24/7, quote-unquote, shit posting on Twitter, right? So when you have a situation when you have such a fragmentation of energy in our ecosystem, it's essential that they will need to communicate with each other, right? Not just from a perspective of sending tokens from chain A to chain B, but also from a perspective of just developing dApps that talk to each other, right? Right now, if you're a developer on the blockchain ecosystem, You need to specifically develop for each ecosystem. You need to develop for Polygon, for Arbitrum, for Solana, and each of these chains make sure that you're sort of locked into these L1 layers. They don't want you to leave because the vanity metric of TVL is very important to each of these chains, right? So, this was exactly the situation in Web 2, right? If you remember, many years ago, you had to develop for Linux, you had to develop for Sun Solaris, you had to develop for Microsoft, you had to develop for Apple. And if you're an end user, right, again, your user experience is fragmented, right? A Word document that you receive on your Apple, and if somebody sent it to you from his Windows laptop, you couldn't open it. The formatting would be all jumbled, right? And then along came two very important innovations, right? One was cloud, AWS, right? And the other was Google Email as a Service, Google Docs, right? So what that did was standardize the experience of both the developer and the end user. So right now, if you're a developer, you just deploy once and use AWS Docker instance or whatever, and that's it. You don't need to worry about what specific operating system that you're deploying for. As an end user, again, if you have a Google Doc or a website or whatever, mostly it's seamless, right? Whether you open it up from your Android or your iPhone or a Windows laptop or whatever. So going back to the topic of this discussion, how will Web3 become a mass movement? How will it go beyond the 5–10% that we see today? I think the UI UX on the front end, but equally importantly, the standardization of the development standards on the back end. That's going to be super important, right? Right now you have, as a developer, as I said, you develop for various blockchains, for Polygon, for Arbitrum, whatever, right? You don't need to do that. So that's where cross-chain solutions like Router come in. We make it simple for developers and users to sort of abstract out the complexity of the underlying blockchain and have a seamless user experience, right? And I think that's going to be, again, alpha for you guys. Interoperability is going to be super important going forward. I think the next bull market, not just Router, there are a bunch of players in this market. It's a crowded space for a reason. It's a very, very promising space to truly realize the potential of Web3. Interoperability is super important.
But I have a question to you, right?
Yep.
So if we use your solution or Cosmos or other things to move between blockchains,
yeah,
do we need to trust you to send the data over properly, or can you manipulate it? Can you explain?
That's a good point, right? So the first version of, so in the bridging space, that's a huge debate. The first version of bridges were all very centralized or semi-centralized bridges, and that's why you got all these hacks. If you look at the number of hacks in the blockchain space between 2021 and 2023, almost 70 to 80% of them, close to $4 billion, were lost to bridge hacks, primarily because of centralized or semi-centralized bridges with a large attack surface or a number of attack vectors, right? But the new generation of bridges, including router chain, we are all completely decentralized. For instance, we use a Cosmos chain, and we piggyback on the Cosmos consensus, the security provided by Cosmos. And indeed, any serious player in this space has to be truly decentralized. Otherwise, it's not going to cut it.
Okay, so you're as secure as Cosmos, but you're adding your layer on top to be more user-friendly.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. I see. Okay. So you see how many complexities there are for the regulator to take care of it? Oh my God, right? Okay. So I want to move on with, by the way, if there are any questions from the audience, get ready, think about them, and I will ask you in a few minutes. Yes, go ahead. I wanted to understand, as the next thing, so we've been talking about politics, we've been talking about businesses, how businesses can benefit, amazing use cases, by the way, from there. We've talked about regulation, it looks good, maybe not in the US, but we're gonna see. We talked about why Web3 makes sense, we talked about that there are multiple blockchains, but I want to still understand, okay, will there be a blockchain that comes from the government or from the European Union? Does anyone have an idea, any insight, any alpha?
Actually, yeah, we are developing European blockchain services infrastructure. Now from 2018 we started. It was in test phase a lot of the time, now is in production phase. We are installing nodes on the level of countries. But maybe to go back, why a lot of blockchains? I think that we need to accept the fact that there are a lot of blockchains and they have been developed And with this, we boost the innovation and innovative approaches. So if you ask me, the government needs to support the creation, the development, and the functionalities of more blockchains. What is the challenge is how to integrate those blockchains into primary one, which is European blockchain services infrastructure. How to develop the standard for onboarding of all these blockchains, because every blockchain brings its own logic, its own character, and with this, with the integration, we enable definitely innovation. In the test period of EBSI, of European Blockchain Services Infrastructure, we did not think about onboarding of the blockchain. But now, when we have it in the production phase, it was also publicly announced that we welcome the integration of blockchains that could be also compatible and useful for European blockchain infrastructure. What is also important that we want to share or to boost or to make wider use of this European blockchain services infrastructure also extra Europe. But then it comes the question of security, the question of trust, of openness and everything.
Can you quickly maybe say also what is this infrastructure bringing as a benefit to Europeans, or what is the plan?
As a benefit to Europeans, accessibility, okay? You have, for the companies, access to markets. You are visible in other markets other than your national home market. It brings a possibility to innovate. It brings more efficiency into the businesses versus in communication with the government. It brings simplification of the processes. It brings a lot of positive things that we can use in or see in direct business value and business results. So we really want to boost that interoperability so that extra European countries can access European countries and also vice versa.
But can I imagine, like, is there a digital currency running on that blockchain? Are there smart contracts on that blockchain, or is that a blockchain at all?
Yeah, why not?
Cool, yeah. That
Why
would be
not?
amazing.
For example, we have a social security pass, okay? If somebody goes outside Europe, and if we have the data on that social security pass for each person, then if something happens, the data is there and it's accessible and it's up to date, accessible in the real time. So it helps to the people and to the companies.
Yeah, basically we're digitalizing the next step that we can digitalize, right? We were digitalizing since there is computers, right? And we were just not able to digitalize things like money and things like assets, ownership, but now we can, right? Because we have the blockchain and everybody wants to get a piece of the cake, and the government wants to have as much control as possible. Yeah, but that's how our life is, yeah? Any questions from the audience? Let's go now. No questions from the audience. Audience is asleep. Coffee for everybody, yeah? On me, it's outside. Okay. Having said that, we have 1 minute 40. Anyone wants to add something on top of?
I want to sort of, your question on will there be government blockchain, it's too broad a question. It depends on who the government is, right? I mean, if you're a government in Beijing, you want a blockchain, right? You are a command and control economy. If you're a government in India, you want a blockchain, but the people won't let you have it. It's too chaotic. If you're a government in the US, maybe you want a blockchain, but you've been advised to go tell JP Morgan to build a CBDC because they're very good at doing it. They've been operating it. There is a case for JP Morgan to act as a CBDC provider, far better than Circle, because USDC would never have unpegged if JP Morgan had launched it instead of, right? So will there be government blockchain? There will be attempts, there will be efforts, but unless it's valuable to the user, it's not going to find adoption. For instance, India, my home country, there is this UPI, Universal Payment Interface. Initially, there was a lot of uproar about information sharing and privacy and all that. But now, most payments happen on UPI. It's a cashless economy. You can actually send remittances into India from Singapore and Dubai using UPI, right? What's the trade-off, right? The government knows what you're doing. There's a privacy trade-off there. But I would argue that there are many chains where you have the trade-off, right? I mean, the validators can switch it off and switch it on. And obviously, I don't want to name names here, but so again, going back to your question, will there be government blockchain? There'll be attempts. Will they be successful? It depends on what country you're in, what the value provided by the blockchain is, and how the nature of the politics in that specific geography is. And then I guess the other thing is geopolitics, right? If you see Iran and Russia and China, and they're all sort of veering away from a dollar economy. And then every time I see the US trying to sort of beat down on USDC or USDT, I think that's a dumb move, because it's helping the dollarization of the economy globally. Yeah. And why would you want to stop that?
I don't know. It's really strange for me as well. I don't get it. But yeah, people are still, are afraid to lose power and lose control.
Yes,
although, if you think a bit, like 1 second longer, you're like, wait a minute, it's my currency, it's fine, right? Let's go, yeah? Right. It's very interesting. Anyway, on that note, there is a question. Can somebody bring a microphone to this gentleman? Can you raise your hand again? Yeah, okay. On that note, hopefully we end on a positive note. Let's see the question.
For Her Excellency, the Minister, and for Ms. ELODIE. I want assessment of strategy of blockchain in Dubai and UAE. Assessment of the advanced made by these strategies in Dubai and UAE, and the outlooks from their point of view. Thank you. Outlooks of Dubai strategy for blockchain. Thank you.
I think you're the best
first, we're not Dubai, we're Abu Dhabi government.
Oops.
That's fine, we are very friendly, that's why we are here today.
Get Crypto Oasis on stage right now.
And just a point on that, like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, we believe that it's not about Dubai, it's not Abu Dhabi, it's not even about the UAE, it's about the Middle East, and how we can join forces in everything we do to position our region on the global map of innovation. So that's first point. The second point is that why digital assets? When we wanted to go on certain sectors, why did we pick up digital assets? Because it's been a huge headache for me. Like, we did it just before FTX collapsed, so you can imagine like it was a little bit challenging to explain our government, yeah, we believe like there is a huge growth in that sector and we will do it. I think the assessment was quite easy for us. We were interviewing a lot of serial entrepreneurs, mainly coming from Hong Kong at that time. And we were looking for a safe place, to soft land and to be able to grow their blockchain business. And it was difficult for them to go to the US or to Europe. And we had, in the next tower, ADGM, this amazing regulator, who has been very advanced in trying to attract this type of technology. And we thought, okay, let's join forces, And that's how we designed together, this ecosystem around blockchain. So yeah, definitely, I think that the UAE has a couple of unique things. First, the regulator, and this is not only for Web3. It's the case for oil and gas. It's the case for healthcare also. We have amazing regulators which are aligned with us on bringing innovation to the economy. Second, we have very open-minded corporates. Can you imagine another country which is a developed country having one of the national banks, raising his voice and telling, okay, we'll do it together. We don't know, but let's educate us,
Yeah.
And last but not least, with what's happening currently and the shortage of capital in US and in Europe, we are seeing a lot of funds relocating to the UAE. And thanks to the amazing regulation of ADGM, a lot of them are soft landing in Abu Dhabi. Yeah. So that's why, we were at that really good timing where everything was coming together, and we thought, okay, let's just bring people together, having this community and attracting more startups.
No, it's a really smart move, and I want to wrap it up with this. Basically, opportunistic but smart, right? People are running away from where they are now because they can't do the business the way they want to do it, the blockchain business. And to not be too one-sided, I think also Singapore is quite a good place for such startups as well. But hey, UAE, let's go, okay? Having said that, thank you very much. Amazing panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.